You're listening to the JoFara podcast hosted by Chris Lee. The JoFara podcast helping people of color to level up.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Chris Lee's JoFara podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, the editor-in-chief of Energi Magazine and the owner of the Ad Agency, Aria DeLima. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show. We've known each other for some time, and it's glad to be able to sit down and chop it up about all the wonderful things that we're going to talk about on this episode of the podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes. So you are the editor-in-chief of Energi Magazine, a magazine which I love and which I contribute to every month. It's always so much fun. Tell me how you came up with the concept of Energi Magazine.
Well, I was fresh out of university and I just finished studying journalism and was kind of like, okay, what now? Right? And I was talking to some of my family and some of my friends and whatnot. And over the years growing up, I kind of grew up in a different household, I guess you could say, where we learned a lot about different holistic practices and like alternative medicines and things like that. So we were really just really involved in that sort of spiritual community growing up. And I was a complete weirdo to most of the people around me in school. And my friends were always just like, what is she talking about? And you know, my friends would come over and my mom would have just finished burning sage and they're like, oh, your mom's cool. And I'm like, no, it's sage. She's not that kind of cool. She's just, you know. So I really wanted to take the magazine as an opportunity to sort of shed light on that sort of upbringing for me and that sort of experience. And also, just kind of see who else was out there. I was like, is it just me? Because I could have posted the magazine and it was just me, you know? But the fact that there have been people that have reached out and said how much fun they've had contributing as well as reading the magazine really kind of expanded my community. And it was really nice for me to see that there were other people like me out there.
Nice. And how's the feedback been? You kind of touched on a little bit, but how's the feedback been about the magazine?
So far so good. You know, we're actually going to be celebrating 2 years.
Yes,
September 1st.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited. So which has been kind of like evolving, and it kind of started out as we actually launched it in my kitchen on my sister's birthday, and like there was a foam party going on outside, and like I was in the kitchen with my MacBook set up, and it was just chaotic. And just to kind of see how it's evolved since that day, and how much smoother it goes
Yeah.
than the first round. You know, people have reached out and even said how much they enjoy reading the articles, and I know that some of our contributors, you know, like we're lucky to have you as well as some of our other contributors who consistently write for us, and they said that they really like having the platform to share their experiences and their knowledge, and it really helps build that sort of community for everybody.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say, because it builds community for us as the contributors, and then it also builds community for everyone who reads it, who shares it, and everything. And community is like so important.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so different because I think that, you know, you have people of different cultural backgrounds and religious backgrounds and, you know, neighborhoods and whatever. But this one kind of fell in between the cracks, I guess. Like when it comes to spirituality, it kind of was not there until you really searched for it. So my goal is to try and bring it so that you don't have to search for it. It's kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And the cool thing about it for me as a contributor to the magazine is the quality of the other articles. Not that I did not expect the quality to be there, but just, kind of like the depth of some of the information that's covered, or reading about some of the other authors' stories when we had our profiles for all the contributors and stuff. That was like super, super cool.
Yeah, I actually loved I mean, continuously love doing the features on some of our contributors as well as other people in the community, because I've just had so much fun getting to know people, and getting to hear their experiences. Like, I know what it was like for me growing up, and I know some of the things that happened to me and for me and all those types of things. But to see what happened to other people and to see how their upbringing impacted their spirituality and their mental health and all of those things. I guess you could say I'm a little nosy about it. And so
You
that's,
know what? You're a journalist. And I think that's
yeah,
like a natural part of being a journalist. You got to be
yeah.
kind of inquisitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to know your business. That's just
Yeah.
what it is.
Now, when did your love for journalism start? Or when did you know that that was something that you wanted to do?
I think it kind of started out as a bit of a fantasy type job for me, like how you would see astronauts and doctors and lawyers, and like just kind of watching it, different journalists on TV. It was kind of like, oh wow, that's so cool, like look. And I know this is so dorky, but my the one scene that stands out to me is from the movie 13 going on 30, and she's like sitting at the desk and she's got her like fluffy pencil, and like it's so dorky. But like when you look at it, I was like, that looks like so much fun. And she's like rearranging all the formatting on the magazine, and like she's kind of putting everything where it's gonna how it's gonna go and how it's gonna look. And I was so just like, that looks like a fun job. And then once from there it kind of piqued my interest. So I started looking, and I just loved hearing people's stories. I just loved hearing where people came from, and um, even being able to speak to my grandparents and things like that. Both sets of my grandparents immigrated to Canada, so um, their stories are all very unique and very different, as like many people who have immigrated out of their home countries. So it just like it was really interesting for me, and I think that's where my interest was piqued, and that's how it started, and just never went away.
Kind of went from there.
Yeah,
Nice. The rest is history, as they say.
yeah,
Okay, now
exactly.
I want to read you something that you have on the website for Energy Magazine, which is energymagazine.love, right? Energy with an
Yeah,
I, magazine.love.
yeah.
You said, growing up, it became clear to me pretty early on that my family was a little different. While other kids were given Flintstone vitamins, my siblings and I were sent for acupuncture and cupping. Forget chicken noodle soup and cold medicine. I got sage and crystals.
Hmm.
What was that like? Because
Well,
I
it's funny. I
just from a different
actually,
perspective, because I was the parent that did that with my kids. So for you,
mm,
from the kid's standpoint, what was that like?
well, it's funny because so I went for acupuncture this morning actually, and the acupuncturist, she's a new lady that I'm seeing, and she's like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do, and she's explaining it to me. I'm like, it's okay, you don't need to explain it. I've already done this. But um, initially, when my mom would tell me that this is what I would like, it's not an option when you're a kid, right? Your parents just say,
Yeah.
these are your vitamins, you take them. Like, this is your medicine, you take it. You need to go to the doctor, all those things. You just have to do it. And so I remember just being like, this is weird. Like, none of the other kids have to do this. And
Yeah.
none of the other kids are all the other kids get checked out for their doctor's appointments, but I'm getting checked out to go to the acupuncturist. And I'm like, I don't want to do. So I think it was just very strange, and very weird to me, like at first. And I know like weird is kind of it sounds like a negative word, but quite honestly, it was just very different.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't used to it based on my surroundings, and it wasn't something that I was seeing often, it was like, oh, this was something that made me different. But eventually, I kind of took pride in it, and it became a part of me. It became something that was special about me. Um, and even though maybe some of the other kids or some of the other people around me questioned it or whatever, um, it was something that was special about me, and so I kind of liked it. By the end of it, I was like,
Yeah.
this is, you know, it's
Yeah.
a thing that makes me unique. It's a thing that makes me different, and I just sort of learned to appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. How would you describe your spiritual journey? What has your spiritual journey been like?
Um, it's been interesting to say the least, I think. So my mom is came from a Hindu background, and my dad from a Catholic background, and so growing up, we did a little bit of both. You know, I went to temple as well as going to church, and I was baptized, but we celebrated Diwali, and you know, we did Christmas and all sorts of stuff. Um, so growing up, I never really had one sort of religious faith. And then, you know, even when my stepdad came into the picture, because his family is Muslim, so there was that exposure there. And I think I really just sort of grew to um, appreciate all the different kinds of spirituality and religious backgrounds and things like that. And this, like, when it comes to the more holistic practices and spirituality aside from religion, it's kind of just the one that resonates with me the most.
Hmm.
And um, you know, I still do all the religious celebrations with my family. It's not like it wasn't a part that there wasn't anything that I separated myself from, but I felt that when it came to just the general understanding of like how energy works and how it impacts the people around you, it was the reasoning that made the most sense to me. And it
Mm,
was the explanation that, aside from the fact that I had such a wide variety of um, explanations provided for me, it was the one that made me feel the most comfortable.
yeah. Yeah. That's good. It's for some people, it's tough to integrate how energy works and all that stuff into the framework of religion. But you had
Mm-hmm.
kind of a wide base as far as that goes.
Yeah, I really did. I got to experience all of it, which was really cool for me because I kind of got a chance to see um, a little bit of everything and then kind of say, okay, you know, like I like this and I like this, and do a little picking. And then I kind of was exposed to the whole concept of using energy and how that works and um, how it impacts the people around you. And I just think that within all the religions, it's kind of the basis. Like if you go to the root of all of it, that's kind of like the one thing that I find they all have in common.
Yeah.
And so it just feels good. Like, and I think the way that I was able to see how other people connected, it just, like the way that you and I can feed off each other's energy, like, you know what I mean? It's just, I can feel it. I can like feel the buzzing. Like that's what it feels like, and that makes it's
Yeah.
tangible. So I don't know if that makes sense,
It
but
does. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because I think understanding and being in tune to be able to pick up on energies is something that is like that's almost like a cheat code for life.
yeah, it is. And it's
Yeah.
weird because I think, I mean, so many people have different abilities, but I think for me, if there was anything that I really felt um, was my thing, is like my intuitiveness in knowing. And that's where people will be like, how did you know that? Or
Yeah.
like I feel, or they say like, I feel like you know exactly what I'm feeling. And it's like, I do, but I don't know how to explain how I
Hmm.
know. I just
Yeah.
know. Like I can just feel it. I walk into the room and I know exactly, like that person's just a little off today. Or I walk in and that one's like, okay, I need to stay away from you. Like, I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So, but yeah,
Now,
that's been a big response.
how do you or how did you receive and when I say receive, I mean like what did you think of your mother's gift and the fact that I think your mother's like a third or fourth generation medium.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit into the framework of everything for you?
You know, growing up, it was, I think, so she started to kind of grasp her abilities, um, around the time that my brother was born, like a little after that. And Noah and I are only 2 years apart, so um, it was. I think for me, it was different because I was able to see the difference a little bit in terms of like what my mom was like before she got a certain amount of education or like understanding of her abilities and after. And I was also a little bit older in comparison to like my other siblings. So um, at first it was a little scary, I think. It was a little bit overwhelming because she didn't know and I didn't know, and she's the grown up, so I'm looking at her like, hello, like, can you
Yeah.
figure this out, please? And like, I don't know what is happening here. Like, can you? So, and then I think as she started to learn, she began to pass that knowledge down. And then once I was able to understand it, it gave me a little bit more comfort. Um, and I was able to see it for what it actually was, as opposed to what it looked like at first glance, which was just like a whole lot of stuff happening. And I was like, I don't know what
Yes.
to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think I was lucky enough to be able to kind of grow up with her learning. And so she was able to pass that knowledge down, and I was able to learn with her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty, and I think for me, it was a part of my journey was um being in a car accident and having a brain injury and being taught that anything unseen in all that stuff is evil. So coming to
Mm,
terms with that, being raised as a Christian was like, I don't know, but there were so many signs that showed that this was accurate, and it's like, for me it was just, I just had to change the way that I looked at it and thought about it.
yeah, and I think because there were so many people around me that didn't understand and also were not learning from her the way that I was learning from her, um, it was weird because it was like trying to explain something that you don't fully understand either.
Hmm.
So then, if you have a teacher that's trying to teach you something and you can visibly tell that they don't fully know what they're talking about, you're like,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, if you say so. And so I think it took me a little bit of time to get to a point where I could explain my situation with a level of confidence as well,
Hmm.
that people were able to understand what I was saying, but also to trust what I was saying, because quite honestly, I wasn't even trusting of what I was saying
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point. So I think it took some time, and then once I got to that point, it made a big difference in the way that I communicated with the people around me, for sure.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Um, Switching gears a little bit to entrepreneurship, you have your own company, the Ad Agency.
I do, I
Tell
do.
us a little bit about that. What do you do?
So the ad agency is a company that I created to help people who are looking to kind of have someone essentially manage their social media. Um, and the way it kind of started out was um, when my mom was, when we had the TV network running, and even when she was doing other types of work for radio shows and things like that, and even as the magazine sort of produced itself, um, we needed to advertise. And I was working to try and figure out what the best way to do it was. And I actually really enjoyed being the one that got to create all the advertisements and the one who got to write the captions and do the research as to what people were engaging in and things like that. And so essentially, the ad agency is a company that allows me to sort of take over your social media or whoever's social media. And I do all the design work. I put the advertisements together. I help you with if you want to do reels and things like that for TikTok and Instagram. I find sometimes it can be a little intimidating for people who don't know social media. And, I grew up with social media, so it's kind of part of me in a certain way. So the ad agency is there to help other businesses promote themselves. And also, if you're looking for someone to help you with building confidence in the social media field, that's what I'm here for.
Nice. And I tell you what, I love the layout for Energy Magazine. I'm sure you do the layout for Energy Magazine. It has a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It has a very elegant feel to it.
Thank you.
Like
Thank you.
this is a
Yeah.
fancy brand.
That's what I want. I want it to feel fancy,
Yeah.
because, and the thing is too, I think that was a big thing for me when I was designing the magazine. And even now, like, I want it to feel luxurious, and I want it to
Yes.
feel like, almost like, when you see those ads and they're like lying in some big fancy lounge chair and there's like this magazine on the coffee table. Like, I want it to be the magazine on the coffee table, like the one
Yes.
that you. So that's kind of how I strive to make the magazine look. So I appreciate that you notice.
Yes, indeed. Because I like it too. Because I feel like as a contributor, it boosts my brand too.
Oh, good.
Look at this. Look where I'm writing. Look at this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the other thing for me as a business owner, I'm almost there. I'm almost to the point with launching this podcast and having this podcast, the popularity just exploded. I was not expecting the podcast to do as well as it's done. I'm almost to the point now where I don't really have as much time to do social media. I've got other
It's a
responsibilities now.
full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job just
Yeah.
to try and do, and I don't blame you. Honestly, it takes up so much time, and that's the other reason why I created the ad agency, because I enjoy doing it. Like, I have fun, I like doing it, but there's people out there who don't have the time. You guys are working your full-time jobs, you guys have your businesses, you're busy running your own businesses,
Mhm.
and not a lot of people have the time to go and try and make these advertisements and content that is not only informative but engaging. And same thing, I want it to have that feel to it where it really embodies your brand, and it has that same feel the same way when you see like sports check, right? Like, you just know right away. You see the little check and you know exactly what it is, right? Or like the Nike check, you know exactly what it is. So um, that's how that was the problem I was trying to solve, is to fix the efficiency in which we
Yeah.
get social media out there.
Yeah. That's great. And it's so funny because I can tell that you're passionate about being an entrepreneur. And I feel like I'm so glad that you kind of picked that up at a young age, because if you pick that up at a young age and you put in the work, I don't ever foresee you, unless you want to, I don't foresee you ever having to work a 9 to 5 job for someone else. Is that your goal, to stay out of that stay out of that lane?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've worked
Yeah.
I did work the 9 to 5 at some point, but I just really enjoy um, being able to do what I want.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yes.
and I like, and I know it sounds almost silly, but like, it's really just, I like being able to kind of do things the way that I want to do things. And I think the other thing is, I mean, as you know, like, my mom's an entrepreneur herself, and she's done so many things. But if I've learned one thing, like there's so many things I've learned from her, but if there's one thing that I learned, it's to be able to take the time to actually appreciate life. And like, I know that
Yes.
sounds corny, but
Yes.
at the same time, like whatever job it is that you're doing, and I'm not trying to negate people who you have to work, like that's just the way it is. That's how this world works. But if you are blessed enough or you're in a position where you can enjoy it, or you always want to be looking for the way to enjoy it. You're always looking for the opportunity to enjoy it. And
Hmm.
I've been put in a position where I've been really blessed by my parents that I've had the opportunity to kind of explore. And I know some people are doing the entrepreneur thing and still working the 9 to 5, like they do both because they love it so much. They believe in their side hustle as it is so much. And so like I admire those people very much.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I've been really lucky, and I just think that being able to work for yourself gives you this opportunity to kind of just experience life the way that you want to. Like if I want to, I'm going to New York in a couple weeks, and like, that might not have been a thing if I was working a 9 to 5, because you have to put in time for time off. You have to, go through somebody else, but I want to go, so I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the what would you say is the importance of entrepreneurship when you combine that with being a person of color?
Mm. Um, well, it's kind of funny because um, when I was in university, I took a magazine course, like a course on how to put together a magazine. And I actually we got to pick my group, but it just so happened that the girls that I was working with were all women of color. And it was really interesting to um, see the way that we all worked together. Um, and there was a sense of understanding between each other, but also like a sense of pride. I think that even seeing where my grandparents came from, and like the life that they worked so hard to give me, and same thing for my parents. um, I've heard some pretty rough stories of things that have happened to them when they moved here, and the way that they were treated as people of color. And um, it hurts my heart to hear it, but to be able to say that I now run my own business and I have these opportunities, like I feel very proud and very thankful
Yeah.
that I can do it. And I also think that sometimes I enjoy the little bit of shock on people's face when I say it. It feels good.
Yeah.
So it's like a little guilty pleasure of my own when I say it, and you can kind of see their face go, oh, you know,
Hmm.
and it's a
Yeah.
nice feeling, um, because I think there's lots of people of color who are entrepreneurs, and they don't always get the credit, I think. But
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
not always seen. Um, it's not always acknowledged. But things are changing for the better, and so that's definitely an
Yeah.
upside. So
Yeah. It's always interesting to me when I hear people from Canada tell me, because in my mind, Canada seemed like this really nice place, and compared to the U.S., I saw something that said Canada being next to the U.S. is like living, next to a meth lab. So I never really think of all
yeah,
of the crazy things that happen here happening in Canada too. But people are people.
yeah, yeah. People are people.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
for
sure.
better or worse.
Yeah, yeah. But I will say, like I think that I do talk to my friends about a lot is the way that things have evolved, and the way that I can see, like my dad used to tell me some horror stories about him being in school, and I was like, who does that anymore? Like, I would never. And I'm lucky, you know, I'm so happy that I didn't have to have those experiences. But I hear that and I think, like, it's not even a thing that I worry about because it would never occur to me that that ever happened. And I
Yeah.
know that sounds like it sounds crazy because there's people who have actually experienced it. And there are things that I have also experienced. But at the same time, I think the the growth is there. That's what I
Yes.
want to say. The growth is
Yes.
there.
Now, as a young person that is entrepreneurially minded, what are some of the challenges that you have to work through on a regular basis, or some of the hurdles that you've overcome to help you to continue to push forward towards your goals?
I think the biggest thing was, um, and I don't know. I feel like there's some people my age out there who walk out with a level of confidence that I aspire to have, and like one day I will get there. Um, but I think, especially with, you know, saying like I'm the editor in chief of a magazine, and people who are twice my age, you know, they look at me and I'm like, oh my God, they just think I'm 10 years old. And,
Yeah.
you know, like they're sitting there going, this kid had Fruit Loops for breakfast. And like, you know, she didn't do her homework and like that, and she's going out with her friends later on. Like that's what they think I do with my spare time. And well, there's nothing wrong with Fruit Loops for breakfast. I'm just saying that it was intimidating dealing with people who are older than me. And even I remember saying, you know, to my mom or to other people when I was starting the magazine, I was nervous because a lot of our writers are older than me. I think actually all of our writers are older than me. And so
You're only
to
10, so,
yeah, I'm only 10. So exactly. So for me to send an email, I remember like sending back an email being like, "Can you fix this, please?" And thank like I'm really sorry to bother you. You know, like so many apologies only to say, "Please fix this thing." Because I was so almost ashamed or like embarrassed that I was gonna go and tell this person, like, who do I think I am? Going and telling this grown up that I need
Yeah,
that I need
yeah,
them to do. So that was really a thing that I had to overcome and get past for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you would say that because I, I've known you guys since you were young, probably 12 or 13, and
Mhm.
I was talking to your brother one time, and I'll bleep this word out. I was talking to your brother one time, and he was like, he said, "It feels weird hanging out and drinking with the grown-ups and stuff." And I'm like, "No, man, you are a grown-up now. You're old enough to drink and talk shit with us. It's you're in the club now. You're good." So
Yeah.
I'll tell you the same thing. You're in the club now.
In the club.
You're one
Okay.
of us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I feel like we need like t-shirts or something.
exactly. Yeah.
Like a card, you know, like I'm part of the club, like it's
Yeah.
like an ID card.
Oh, that's funny. What do you do? Because I have days like this too. What do you do on days when you just feel like quitting? Like this, like it's like you either feel like it's not worth it or you can't go on anymore. What do you tell yourself to overcome? How do you get yourself out of that headspace?
Well, I think one of the things I was kind of thinking about this the other day actually, but when it comes to mental health and self-love and all those types of things, I didn't really know about it until I really dove into the magazine, because I was researching topics for us to talk about and things that I thought people would be interested in. And um, I think on those days where I'm just so like, I'm done, um, I kind of take a minute and think, okay, well, you're out there telling people that this is how to make yourself better and this is how to improve yourself. You know, maybe practice as you preach,
Yeah. Yes.
walk
Yes.
the walk a little. Like it's one of those. And to the point where I get embarrassed because I'm like, I'm sitting here wallowing a little bit when I know how to make myself feel better. Like I know that you need to like get up, you need to go for a walk, you need to drink some water, like some very simple things. And slowly like you just kind of have to put one foot in front of the other. And I
Yeah.
think everyone handles it very differently. That's the other thing I've come to learn is that everybody handles it very differently. So where I might just need a glass of water in the morning and some food to kind of get me moving, like other people, that's not it. So even some mornings I will say, okay, like you're just gonna put your feet on the floor.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's it. You're just gonna like sit up. That's all you gotta do. And then once I'm sitting up, it's like, okay, now you're going to stand. Like let's just one step at a time, nice and slow. And then eventually, you kind of just keep moving. However, that's not to say that I don't have days where I lie in bed and watch Netflix.
And
Because
some days it's like that. I've had days
yeah,
like that where some days you're like, I'm tapping out today, and
yeah.
that will pick back up tomorrow.
And I think too, like from an energy perspective, right? There's this is one thing where I had to really wrap my head around. And I say it to my dad a lot because my dad's really guilty of this. But like I know I have work to do, but I'm exhausted. So I need to rest. So I'm gonna lie here and think of all the things that I have to do, not rest. I'm gonna sit there and think about all the stuff that I have to do and then not do any of it and then just be tired. And it's just like this vicious cycle. So I'm really working on like when I say I'm going to rest, I'm going to rest. And just kind of putting stuff out of my mind for a little bit and giving myself that leeway, giving myself that little bit of wiggle room to be like, okay, maybe today's not the day. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
we'll try again tomorrow. And
Right.
and that's okay sometimes.
Yeah, that is important for everybody to realize that, everybody talks about this work ethic and just go, 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 but you really have to take time to kind of rest and recharge.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's very, very important. Um, what tips would you give? What marketing tips would you give to a person who's starting a business, as far as reaching their audience? Where's is like a good basic starting point for someone who wants to um, kind of kick things off for a business as far as marketing goes?
I think right now social media is kind of where it's at. And so I think really kind of putting yourself out there, and I know it's like uncomfortable sometimes, and I know that it's awkward, and you're just like, why do I have to do this? But um, it's important because that's how people are getting to know you. And it's word of mouth, around here is like at least in my area, and like even with the magazine, we get a lot of people that are just, spreading the word. And because we have something that is of value and you're working with people who are within the same community, it goes over well. So saying that, I think an important thing to look at is what is your audience? Who are you trying to get in touch with? Who are you trying to communicate with? And with that information, make your content based on that. Make your content to cater to those people. And it doesn't need to be anything super extravagant. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. I know, like, you see commercials on TV or you see advertisements pop up on your social media. It doesn't need to be super extravagant. It could just be you, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's some information about it, or things like that. And I also say, and this was another one that I had to get over, but people are interested in your individual story. People are
Yes.
interested in, like, people are nosy, like they want to know your business. And
Yes.
so for me to put my face, like to start filming reels, it was a big deal for me. I was like, oh my God, I have to film my face. Like it was a lot for me. And when I did it, I realized people were responding. And when I really looked at it, I thought it's because when I'm scrolling through Instagram, I want the videos I click on are the videos where it's like the girl doing whatever in her kitchen, or like she's explaining that her morning was complete crap because she, was having a hard morning and couldn't get to work on time. Like those are the videos that I want to watch. That's the content that I'm interested in. And that's the content that other people seem to be responding to. So I guess know your audience and don't be scared to share your story and share your personality on your social media or wherever your advertisements are.
Love it. Love it. What would you say is the power, like this, what's the power of storytelling? And what would you say is like the secret sauce of telling a good story?
I would say, well, the power of storytelling, I guess, would be the fact that everybody's story is so unique. Like you will never, the whole snowflake analogy, like you will never have two that are the same. Even if you have like siblings that grow up, you could have identical twins growing up in the same household, and their experiences on their upbringing will be very different, because they may see things similarly, but their experiences on life are going to be completely different. So I think that's where the intrigue is, because I will never be able to know what your life is like, and you will never be able to really know what my life is like, but you can get a taste of it through storytelling. You can get a perspective, and I think people in general are really open to knowledge. Like they want to soak it all up. It's within their nature to learn, right? And so I think people want to learn what those experiences would be like, and maybe they say, oh, like that's cool that you have a podcast and this is something you're doing. Maybe that's something I want to try. And so they're able to learn from your experience and kind of apply it to their own life. Or, maybe they're like, you have a podcast and that looks terrifying. I don't want to do that. Like I'm going to stay away from that. And you learn what you do like and what you don't like. And so I think that's really the main reason why it's important. And if there was a secret sauce, I mean, I think it's really just capturing the life of it. Like I know that sounds really vague, but capturing the full picture, like paint the picture so that you can see it, so that you feel like you're immersed in the experience, so you feel like you're having that conversation with that person, or you feel like you're in that room with those people and you're watching it yourself, because essentially that's why we tell stories, is so that we can share experiences. So you want to make it as realistic as possible, regardless of how you tell it, whether it be through writing, through video, through audio, however else you tell it. That's what I think the important part is.
Yeah, that is true. I stumbled upon that years ago. I used to go and speak to different groups after my brain injury and talk about my recovery. And I was one day it was at the VA speaking to a group of vets. And I don't know, like when I had a brain injury, sometimes things would bypass my brain and just come right out of my mouth. So I told the guys, it was mostly men. I think it was all men. I told them that after the brain injury that I started wetting the bed. And that's like super embarrassing, it's like something you want to say. And everybody in the room was like, "Oh my God, me too. I didn't know that. No one said that was a side effect of a brain injury. Did you wet the bed?" It was like telling that
That's
story.
the other thing too, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes like everyone's thinking it, but you need to say it.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. And I as we kind of reach near the end of the show, I wanted to show off a gift that you all got us as contributing writers. And these are energy bottles in this. See what I mean about the packaging? And if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, you'll have to look on YouTube and you'll be able to see what this is. So it's a water bottle that is crystal infused. You can unscrew it and put whatever crystals you want in there. I love this. I use it all the time. I just put it in the box for the podcast so I could unbox it. Because you know how people on YouTube are like, this is the unboxing.
This is the unboxing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. How did this come about? How did the energy bottles come about?
Well, we're a bunch of crystal nuts in this house. So we have them everywhere. In fact, I have two here. I literally I have my amethyst here. I have some more over, like on my fireplace. Like they're literally everywhere. And we had found some research by Dr. Emoto. I think Dr. Emoto.
Yes.
And he did some research and found that there was an impact on water when exposed to certain frequencies. Or certain words more specifically. So what kind of started it was this piece of research, and essentially the research showed that when you have I think it was 2 cups of water, and on one it had words of positivity like love and joy and things like that, and on the other it had words of negativity such as hate or like anger and things like that. And the positive cup had these, once frozen, had these like really beautiful crystallizations that happened. And in the other cup, it was not so beautiful. It was kind of ugly looking. And essentially, the thought process behind it was if we're made up of a very large percent of water, imagine what happens when you say hurtful things to other people, or like when you say hurtful things to yourself, and imagine how that impacts your physical body. And so that's kind of how the bottle started. And so, I mean, I actually have mine with me too. I've been sipping on it, but I decided to hand engrave different words of positivity onto the bottles, like different words of high frequency. So you have the faith bottle, and I have the gratitude bottle. I also have the joy bottle that I use super frequently. And while the bottoms do open up and you can change the crystals, the bottles all come with crystals that are supposed to be connected to the word that you have. So my gratitude bottle has crystals that promote gratitude. Your faith bottle has crystals that promote faith. We also have joy, love, happiness, purity, abundance. So there's so many to choose from, and I hand etched them all myself, which makes me feel really connected to
Really?
them.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took some practice, but
I never knew that.
fun.
That's great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So.
is this, I remember you all traveling to, I think it was Bali. Was that for these?
So when we went to Bali, it was because my mom was running a tour there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we had gone to do some trials of hotels and experiences and adventures. But I will say, going to Bali was such an eye-opening experience for me, spiritually, just because the way that the people there connect with each other, and the just like the feeling, like the vibration of the whole place in its entirety. Like I couldn't go anywhere and not feel calm.
Yeah.
Even if it was like we were in a nightclub, okay? And like this place is bumping. We're having a good time, but like I still felt calm. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, going to Bali was definitely a life-changing experience and a trip of a lifetime for sure.
Nice. Nice. I'm so glad you get to experience so many cool things.
Me too.
That's good. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Let the listeners know, tell them everything, how to reach you on social media, how to order, if they want to order the energy bottles, where to find the magazine. Tell them everything.
Okay, so to find the magazine, you're going to go to energimagazine.love, and there's also a link to the Energy store there, so that's where you can purchase the bottles, and they're all listed there, and you can take a peek at the wide variety. And if you're looking for me for the ad agency, you can find me at theadagency.ca, and you can also find us at Energi Magazine on Instagram and Facebook, and also the Ad Agency 1 on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today, and wish you all of the success in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
For more great content, follow Chris on Instagram at thinkchrislee or visit www.thinkchrislee.com.